right, guys. So moving
Did
on.
Dream Theater penetrate you?
No, Dream Theater did not penetrate.
Did it penetrate your subconscious?
It penetrated. It penetrated. Rock Band is when I first heard of Dream Theater.
Yes.
That final, the ultimate song. Once you beat the game, you had to play that. Nobody could ever play that. It was on safe mode because nobody. Yeah, it's insane. So we are covering Metropolis Part 2: Scenes from a Memory. By Dream Theater. It's ranks number 131 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 15 in 1999, number 757 of all time. It is Dream Theater's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. It did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Dream Theater ranked number 212 of overall artist rankings.
Can I ask you a question, Matt?
Please.
Where the hell are Dream Theater from? I could not figure out for the life of it. They felt Scandinavian.
Are you asking where they met and formed the band, or where most of the members were actually from?
Where are they from, like, originally?
Most of these band members are from the greater New York area. So, like Long Island, Staten Island, I believe, those come in the members, but they were actually formed in Boston.
Mike Portnoy. I know Mike Portnoy is, he's from New England, I think he was one of the original. Well, I'll get to that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, they are not Scandinavian. They are very much American. So this is their fifth studio album that was released on October 26, 1999. It is considered their magnum opus. Guys, one day we're going to have to get together and find out which season of, or which episode or whatever of Combing the Stacks is our magnum opus. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. We just haven't, we haven't gotten the feedback enough to point that out.
Whatever one's our longest episode.
Yeah.
That's probably our magnum opus.
There you go, probably. So this is prog rock and also progressive metal. Their highest charting album is 2009's Black Clouds and Silver Linings, that hit number 6 in the U.S. charts. And their highest charting single is 1992's Pull Me Under, that hit number 68 in the U.S. Influences lots of previous CTS artists, including Dio, Judas Priest, King Crimson, Marillion, Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, Queensryche, Black Sabbath, Frank Zappa, Iron Maiden, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Genesis, Yes, Jethro Tull, Rush, Deep Purple, Queen, and Pink Floyd. And along with Queensryche and Fate's Warning, which is a band I've never heard of. Have you guys heard of Fate's Warning?
No.
No.
So Queensryche, Fate's Warning, and Dream Theater, they are referred to as one of they're the big three of progressive metal. So respond this.
Well, and they will be the second band we've covered who did a progressive metal rock opera.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you picked up on the rock opera, John. Okay, good.
It wasn't exactly subtle.
Yeah.
Every artist you named was either like a prog or a metal artist that we covered on the show.
Pretty much. Yep. So there you go. So the band they were originally formed as Majesty. That was the original name of the band. They were formed in 1985 in Boston. Guitarist John Petrucci, bassist John Myung, and drummer Mike Portnoy were all students at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And so they formed a band, and they began covering Rush and Iron Maiden songs. The name Majesty came from the Iron Maiden song Bastille Day. They made a comment saying that it sounds majestic, so they went with Majesty. They also added Kevin Moore on keyboards and Chris Collins on vocals. And then the members of the band that were at Berklee College of Music just dropped out and decided to focus on the band. They did release a collection of demos called the Majesty Demos, and at that point, Collins left in 1986, and they added Charlie Dominici on vocals, and they played some shows.
Did you say 1986?
Correct.
Wow, okay.
They formed in 85.
Wow, I did not realize that was back that far.
Yep, wow. Their first demo was 86. They played shows in New York City, but had to change their name. It's one of those things where there was another band named Majesty who threatened legal action. So they went with, at the recommendation of Portnoy's father, they went with Dream Theater, which is the name of a small theater in Monterey, California, so on the other side of the country. So they are Dream Theater. They signed with Mechanic Records in 1988 and released their debut album When Dreams and Day Unite in 1989. They then became unhappy with their vocalist, Charlie Dominici, and let him go. And then they went into a 2-year process to find his replacement, auditioning over 200 vocalists for the job. So they briefly hired.
That is like the most prog rock thing ever, isn't it? Like it really is.
Yeah.
It took a while. They briefly hired a singer by the name of Steve Stone, But during a live performance, he turned off the crowd while he was giving what the members called a strange performance. He also shouted a couple of times, quote, "Scream for me, Long Beach," which is what Bruce Dickinson can be heard screaming on Iron Maiden's live album, Live After Death. But the ironic thing there was Dream Theater was actually playing Bayshore, New York, so they weren't even in Long Beach, California. And so it was just a bizarre spectacle, so they canned him. But in January of 1991, they received a demo tape from a gentleman named Kevin James Labrie, and they flew him out to audition, and they hired him on the spot. He dropped his first name and went by James Labrie, so as not to be confused with the keyboardist Kevin Moore.
Can we just talk about how the fact that someone named James Labrie is absolutely the choice as opposed to Steve Stone for a band like Dream Theater? Like, you have to get the name right? Like, Steve Stone cannot be the lead singer of Dream Theater. It's a little too simplistic.
Yes. I see that. Yeah. So at this point, they get out of their contract with Mechanic Records, and they signed with a label called East West on a 7-album deal. Their second album, Images and Words, was released in 92, which achieved gold status in the U.S. and platinum in Japan. It also included a song called Metropolis Part 1, which was titled as a joke with no intention of a Part 2. Their third album was named Awake, released in 1994, and before it was mixed, Kevin Moore, the keyboardist, quit the band to focus on other music, and he was kind of not really happy with the direction of the band and their style.
That is the Rock Band song, by the way, Matt. Metropolis Part 1.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
There you go. All right. Thank you, John. They wanted to offer the job to a guy named Jordan Rudess, which after seeing him featured in Keyboard Magazine. So there is a Keyboard Magazine out there, guys. It's still active, as from what I could tell.
You know who's a big fan? Keyboard Cat. It's like Keyboard Cat and Rick Wakeman.
So Keyboard Magazine had Jordan Rudess as named the, quote, best new talent in a readers poll. So they got readers poll. This is a very niche group of people that know
that also includes Billy Preston. That's the readers. Keyboard Cat, Billy Preston, and Rick Wakeman.
But Rudess actually decided to go with another band, and so Dream Theater hires Derek Sherinian, who previously worked with Alice Cooper and Kiss. They did an EP called The Change of Seasons. This is one of those EPs that's actually almost an hour long. Included a 23-minute song of the same name.
Oh my God.
And five live covers. So that's an EP. They also released a special Christmas CD through their fan club, and they continued doing this through 2005. So every Christmas there would be a new Dream Theater special release. I don't think it was actual Christmas album. I just think they released it on Christmas to their fans through the fan club. So
it's not like Christmas music.
Doesn't Pearl Jam do that too? So. Like do a track every Christmas?
It would not surprise me. They just
I think that's what Last Kiss came from.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
So the label at East West started pressuring the band to write more accessible albums, and they hired Desmond Child to help the band make more radio-friendly tunes. So he comes on. Band almost writes almost 2 CDs worth of material, including a 20-minute long follow-up to A Change of Seasons and a sequel to Metropolis Part 1, a song called The Miracle and The Sleeper, but the label would not allow the release of a double album. So their fourth album, Falling into Infamy, was released in 1997, and they did not have that follow-up to Metropolis Part 1.
It's almost like the label didn't know what this band was. Could you guys
when you
sign a 7-album deal
with Dream Theater and you want something more accessible, it's because it's not like they started off doing pop music and then went into prog. They were kind of always doing this. So Portnoy at this time assembles a supergroup. So that's the other thing too. A lot of these guys have like side projects and supergroups. This supergroup was called Liquid Tension Experiment, and that did include that previously aforementioned keyboardist Jordan Rudess. And at this point, that's when Portnoy convinces him to join the band, which he agrees to. And they fired their the keyboardist at the time via conference call. So they didn't want to fly him all the way out to where they were to fire him, so they did him the courtesy of just doing it over the phone. So and for some reason,
how do you pitch that? Hey, we've got here's everybody in the room. We've got all right. Could everybody do attendance and roll call?
It might have just been one guy. I don't know, but they did not fly him out specifically to fire him. But this is what I don't get too, because even though the band wants it to be more accessible, for the next album, Portnoy got the label to basically get the band complete artistic control over the next record, and they decided to do a sequel, take that Metropolis Part 1 idea and expand it into a concept album / rock opera, which is what we have here tonight. So this is a concept album dealing with, so I've got the synopsis. I don't know if you want me to read through it or if you want to take a guess, but actually I can tell you this album was more influenced, the story of this record was more influenced by a film, more so than it was by Metropolis.
Was it the Never Ending Story?
It was.
It's not
it's
the film
not
Metropolis, that's for sure.
Not the film Metropolis. So I can give you guys the quick synopsis, or I can give you the more in-depth one.
What's the film, first of all?
Yeah,
The film. Oh, I was going to have you guess that too.
Freddy the Dream Warriors?
No. The film is the 1991 film. I don't think it's a Kenneth Branagh film. It's Dead Again. Which had Robin Williams in it. So I saw that once a long time ago. I remember liking it, but I don't really remember the story.
Yeah.
But that's the film. So, but yeah, it's basically, I don't know. Do you want me to do
do the quick kind of overview?
The quick one.
Yeah.
All right. So it's basically, it's dealing with the story of a man named Nicholas and his discovery of his past life, which involves love, murder, and infidelity as Victoria Page. So he realizes that in a past life he was Victoria Page who was murdered, and he feels like I have to figure out the mystery of like what happened to her, because he doesn't believe the story that was released. So he goes to a hypnotherapist and he puts him under to try to go under and discover this. But it also turns out the hypnotherapist was the guy that murdered. In another past life, like the hypnotherapist was in that past life too. So yeah, there's all this stuff about that. So
I was gonna say someone turned on them and was a murderer. I know that from one of the songs. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that's basically kind of the short version of what this is.
Because I read all the lyrics, guys, just so I could be briefed on this the second time I listened. Yes.
Yeah. So did you pick up on all that, John?
I will say this. It's relative. Like, I don't know if I got it's like the depth, like that the guy's name was whatever, but like I got that it was sort of like a dream journey where it's like part like what's the Severance, right? You know what I mean? Where like you're kind of in the world, but you're of another world, right? Where you had another past life type deal. So I got all that, and that there was some guy who. I didn't realize he was a psychiatrist. I thought he was like sort of like the
hypnotherapist. Yeah,
hypnotherapist. I thought he was like the guy, the Charon's like boat driver, you know what I mean, through the dreams. But like, so there you go. So there's that. They have, if you want the more in-depth synopsis, they lay that out in Wikipedia. But the band, they took influence from a lot of rock operas, the Who, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. The Who's Tommy, the Radiohead's OK Computer, Queensryche Operation Mindcrime,
Genesis,
Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Marillion's Misplaced Childhood.
I was about to say, I definitely got that Marillion album and the Queensryche album. Yep.
As well as The Wall and The Final Cut by Pink Floyd. The static that closes the album continues at the beginning of The Glass Prison, which is the first song on their next album, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. And this pattern persists apparently throughout their subsequent albums until 2005 with the same concept but different closing notes. So they end their album and then the next album begins where the last one left off. So that's very proggy. There's also in 2024 it was announced that the album would receive a novel adaptation with Peter Aurelian as the author, and that was released in October of 2024. So you can go read the novel of this record. And so that's this album. This is the big one. They've got 16 other albums, with 2024's Parasomnia being the most recent. So they are still going around. They've had some other lineup changes. Portnoy left, but also came back. And so there's other artists that are kind of coming and going. But this is the big one. And let's see. I am interested in hearing first from Josh on this. What's your take, Josh?
This is a lot of album. I think like
sure is.
I've probably said this anytime we've talked about a concept album, but I really don't think that that I am the audience, or the idea of a concept album is not really what I want from music. I can kind of appreciate the ambition of it and the idea of it. And I mean, I think that, for all credit, I think Dream Theater has taken the idea of a concept album as like to the end point. Like, I think that's like, this is like the most you can do with a concept album, I think, in terms of complexity, in terms of ambition, in terms of story. I just never find the stories via this medium as that compelling. Like, it almost sounded better, it like that makes the story that they tell through this album makes more sense as like a movie to me, or like a TV show, or like a written story, versus the idea of setting this to music. It never quite works for me. I mean, you named all of the kind of big concept albums that we've talked about over the years on the show. And, I think, to something you always say, Matt, like, it has to like come down to the music for me ultimately. Like, I'm not gonna, the story is always gonna come second to the music. Even as when we talked about Queensryche and Operation Mindcrime, and as a great title as that is, like, I am gonna remember the music more than the story, I think, at the end of the day. And we haven't talked, it's interesting that we're talking about prog metal, because this album does seem like a fusion of prog and metal to me. They definitely check the box on that.
And Brett Hines of Mastodon just died this week.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you guys caught that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are they also prog metal, John?
They veer into that, yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever listened to too much of them. So I guess in terms of the prog metal, I enjoyed the music, but it's just so complicated. It's like listening to an orchestral piece or something. There's a lot, it requires repeated listenings, which I think you get your money's worth if you're like into this sort of genre or of the concept album in general. Like, it rewards repeated listenings. I think you can get a lot out of this album. I gravitated, it seems like at this point in time in 1999, this is almost like it's such a niche genre to begin with. Like, I don't know, it seems out of time in some ways. It seems almost like I don't know, it seems so specific, and nothing else we've ever listened to in this decade, really, or at least in the later half of the decade. And it's so I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just very specific, and I think you have to be in the right mindset to like this. And you're really going on a journey if you like give the album a whole listen in one sitting, because you would almost need like liner notes to understand, kind of like follow along what's going on and stuff. Musically, I think I enjoyed it, but I liked when they veered into like the metal parts more. They have the hallmarks of like all prog bands where there's multiple movements within a song. The songs flow into one another, and they're all labeled, like Act 1, Act 2, Scene 1, Scene 2, Scene 3, like all the way throughout the whole album, so you can follow along that way. But they kind of flow into each other, so if you're not paying attention, you can be on another song. There's just a complexity that I'm not like fully on board with in this way for this type of music. I don't know. I don't think I would ever like go back to listen to this album. It's just like, so there's just too much there. Musically, I like don't enjoy it enough to like want to go back. Like, I kind of like appreciate aspects of it. I like the metal parts more, but like the prog parts just feel so kind of outdated or uninteresting in a certain way. And I don't know, it's just not really for me. I think even what's the last prog album we did? The Queensryche album? I mean,
I think so.
Marillion?
Yeah. I think Queensryche was after that, though.
But Marillion's more a concept album that I don't think, or Queensryche.
Operation Mindcrime was a rock opera too.
Yeah. But the Marillion album was more just like music, if I remember right. Not like
there was
not
loose
like a
concepts.
concept.
It wasn't like a story,
Right,
like
right.
the other two. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm rambling, and I ultimately just kind of give this a thumbs in the middle. It's almost like an aspect or like an intelligence, or like an interest that I'm just like not it's not my Venn diagram, as you guys say. So I don't know. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I can relate to some of what you're saying, Josh, and
Yeah.
I'll tie it in together. I think why I like this album more is I definitely hear the Iron Maiden Judas Priest of this album throughout. And there's a fair amount of that a lot of the central guitar riffs and structure of songs share a lot more in common with Iron Maiden than just pure prog. And that is really, like you said, I connect probably easiest with that, but it's a chaser for me of this album, that because I like that sound so much, I'm here for the rest of the journey.
Yeah.
I where I agree with you, Jess, it's very hard for me to take, even though this is a serious album and
Right.
musically I treat it seriously, it's hard for me to take prog rock seriously. There's a part of it that is just so funny to me as a genre. Like it's like, how can I describe it? It's like someone who's a novelist and you kind of want to, and reads a lot, right? They think because they read a lot, right, that they can write a really good book. I guess the best way I could put it is when I was starting out teaching, I was tasked with teaching a class called Fantasy and Sci-Fi, right? And it was 15
Your
guys.
favorite.
Yeah, 15 guys, right? You know, it was proto before women could enter that space, right? So these were guys that I don't think they were reading the books that I was teaching in my other English classes willingly, right? You know, they were not sitting down with Dickens, right, or Chaucer, or even like Maya Angelou, or, you know, stuff like that. But what they were sitting down with, because they were reading aplenty, was fantasy and science fiction. And what it was it was a very narrow genre of what they liked to read about and write about, and they were very literate in it. They were very bright kids, and they would write tomes of material to the point where I had to put like a limit on how much they could write. But it always felt a little bit like this, where it's like, let me tell you a story of this genre, and the stories always kind of make me chuckle a little bit, because I just think it's like literate, but literate in a way that kind of feels a little bit like cotton candy, I think. And so this is better than almost any of the ones we've done so far. I would put this up there with The Wall in terms of the ones that probably had the best story and the best cohesion of the story. So I'll give them a lot of credit, but definitely the concept of what's the words, right, of this rock opera is kind of funny to me, because I become a little bit like you, Matt, where it's like, I almost like listen to it as the prog part of it, right? Like the tempo changes and the structures and, you know, what choices they're making musically to tell the story, and I can kind of get the gist of what they're going for. But the actual story itself kind of always cracks me up. Like you said, it's kind of like, just write a graphic novel. You know what I mean? If you want to do this, I just don't think I'm gonna get what you're going for in like a musical format, you know, or you have to write like a musical or something, you know. Just, it can't be this. But I enjoyed this album. The first listen was a little bit homeworky, because you just got to take, as Josh said, it's a lot of album, so you got to take in like what are all the things that like on the second listen I'm going to start by paying attention to. And then I was like, I think I'm going to have to do a third listen of this as well. But you kind of have to schedule it, because prog rock is not one that you could just put on, right, and just put in your car, right, or like loose listen. So the third listen, by the time you do it, you are committing a sizable chunk of time and cognitive energy to it. And sometimes I resent that in this form of, you know, math rock type of rock. But like I said, at the end of the day, the drumming, the guitar lines are appealing sounds to me, and because they stayed there for a lot of this album, it is the type of prog rock that I like best. The prog mixed with metal is definitely my favorite. And when the metal sounds more like Nwaba, like metal, or like 70s hard rock, which is what some of this leans into a little bit more, I'm more for it. So A for ambition on the prog rock scale, and A for coherence of theme and story, right? It's one of the better stories we've been told in this prog rock genre. For enjoyability of listen, B minus, I'd say. So altogether, I put this at a B, on the right day, B plus. So I would say thumbs up, but as with any caveat, if you are not a prog rock person, I do not think you have outliers. Unless you're a nut like I am, who listens to a lot of these albums and just has a hierarchical nature, right, where I try to do it. If you're just someone who doesn't listen to a lot of it and you don't like prog rock, like, this isn't going to get you started loving it, right? It's just, I think it's almost one of the most impenetrable genres, prog rock. You either love it or you hate it in like 95% of people's preferences, right? And I think I'm one of the rare neutrals on the prog rock genre. But within that genre, I would say that it's my, outside of a couple of the Pink Floyd albums we did, I think it's my favorite of the prog rock albums that we've done.
Do you think it's easier if you're into metal to get into prog metal versus like if you're into prog to get into prog metal, like that crossover?
Depends on what type of metal you're listening to, right? You know, it depends on why you're listening to metal too. Like, if you're listening to metal for the aggro of it, like, this isn't going to appeal to you. I mean, the dirty secret about lots of metalheads in high schools, right, was that everybody thought they were the burnouts, and there were some, but most of the metal kids were like the unmotivated but super smart kids. Like, most everybody has stories of like knowing a couple metalheads that are pretty brilliant, you know, and like, this is the natural end lane of smart metalheads, right? Like, as they get to this. So to some degree that explains Rush, isn't it? Like, smart metalheads.
They were real into sci-fi and stuff when we talked about them.
Yeah, the Norse. There's a reason Spinal Tap talked about like Norse mythology. There's certain things that are revisited over and over again.
Druids,
in these things. You know, like
Stonehenge.
fantasy lives. The ancient times, space travel. You know, these things.
Hey, Zeppelin was Robert Plant was in all that stuff too.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, within metal, right? Like, these are things that occur. I mean, Metallica writes about those things, even. You know what I mean? And it's the occult is another. There's a lot of like touch points, and I think we all know how I feel about these topics. So yeah.
Well, this is where being the non-lyrics guy makes this an easier kind of task, you know, because I'm here for more of the music. I'm with you guys. I don't have much use for like these elaborate stories. I will say I kind of like the ambition of the idea of a rock opera, right? Like, it's telling a story that, you know, and putting it to the music like this. It's an interesting kind of way of doing music. I agree. It's probably a lot of times the stories are like, some of it's like, what's going on, you know, and they're just so out there. And obviously we've kind of covered a couple that, as John pointed out, are a little bit more linear and you know, kind of easier to follow. But like, at the end of the day, if the story is just this elaborate kind of nonsensical jarble, but the music is connecting with me, the album to me is going to be awesome, right? You know what I mean? Because it's just that's kind of why I'm here. So I think with this record, busy was the first word that came to mind. This is a busy sounding record, and that first listen, as you guys mentioned, it's like, okay, what are they doing? They're all over the place here. You know, now you can immediately tell the virtuosity of the musicianship, right? Like it's a tight band that's playing lots of fast, off tempo, you know,
that's almost
complex.
baked into the genre, isn't it? It goes unsaid in prog to some degree.
Yeah. But it's still worth just like, you're just listening to this going like, wow, this song is like 11 minutes long, and they're just like taking it in about 8 different directions, really fast, really tightly, like changing time signatures, and just they're all over the map, right? So it's chaotic when you first listen to something like this. Even as someone who probably likes prog rock the most on this podcast, I'm still not a prog rock guy, but I think I probably gravitate towards this a little bit more than you guys do. it's still that first listen, I'm going, I don't know if this is for me. Like right off the bat, like I was turned off and I was like, ugh, like this just seems, it's too busy. It's too much, right? Which I never really felt that way about Genesis, to be honest, when I first started, the band that I probably liked the most in the genre. But then I listened to it, and I knew I was going to have to. I gotta listen to this certainly more than once, and so I listened to this one probably the most this week. And damn, if I didn't, as it went on, I was starting to see more. I was starting to feel more. And there's some great riffs on here. There's definitely moments where I was really feeling it. Like I think my favorite song on this is "Home," and that sounded like Tool. That's another kind of like prog metal band that we've covered, which oddly enough, that didn't really connect with me, but there's parts of that song I'm like, that's a song I got a Tool vibe. That deep guitar or a deep bass groove that they found is very much sounds like Tool. But I just like melodically what he does with the chorus there. Like by the third or fourth time I listened to this, I was like, oh, okay, that's really good. Like I'm getting what he's doing there, vocally. So generally speaking, I like how this album moves. I think that the ballads, there's a couple of songs on here that are really pretty piano ballads. Something like, what is it? Through Her Eyes stood out for that one last time. Just there's some really pretty moments there, which I like, and kind of taking a little bit of a break because it's not totally full of the prog metal genre. There's some kind of they're taking a break here and there, which I thought was welcomed. But there was still stuff like the Dance of Eternity. Man, it got too busy. Like they were just throwing so many things out there that you're just going, are they even? They didn't sound tight on that song. They sounded like the keyboard player, whatever, and he did a variety of different sounds with the keyboards. That sounded like it sounds like it was totally put in the wrong place. Like it seems like it's totally off doing its own thing, and it doesn't really seem to fit in. So maybe this is something that you just need to listen to more, and maybe it gets there eventually. I don't know. I never really felt that way. So that was the song that was like, I could have done without that one, right? So there's ebbs and flows to this record, I think, for me. But as I listened to it more, it was definitely, I was seeing more into it. I had a better idea of what was coming when they revisit some of the melodies. I was picking up on that. That's kind of another hallmark as well. Sometimes with these rock operas that they'll tease like a melody or something early on and they bring it back, right? So musically, it's kind of the theme kind of comes back there too. Right. So, yeah. So the story after I read it, I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting, a little twist and stuff like that, but like, I don't. You're right. If I want a cool story, I'll go watch a show or a movie or read a book or whatever. Right? Like I don't go to my music for a story necessarily. Like at least a narrative story, right? So that's not something I'm here for as much. But yeah, this did grow on me a little bit more. And it is homework. I think that's a fair thing to say. Because it's just this is not music. This is not like the Dixie Chicks, which just comes on. You're like, here you go, right? This is I know what's happening right away. This one's like, wow, I gotta really be in the right mindset for this. But I agree. If you can do that, if you're interested in being patient with something and trying to see where it takes you, and you're interested in intricate musical parts, this is something definitely that you could potentially get into. So yeah, it's a thumbs up for me, but it's also like, with an asterisk of, I don't know if I want to really delve into the catalog of Dream Theater extensively, or really like listen to this over and over again, but it was still enjoyable, and it's something that I could come back to here and there, but it's kind of like, I got to be in the right frame of mind, I think. So yeah, definitely interesting though, for sure.
And Matt, this wasn't a band that you had listened to albums before that your brother knew or something like that?
My brother so my brother definitely likes more prog than I do. He especially like bands since not just because we've done a lot of prog that we've done at like 70s and kind of earlier stuff. He's more familiar with like the 2000 prog movement, and there's tons of there's a whole like can of worms that you could open going into this stuff if you really wanted to. And he's done that to an extent. He's familiar with them. I remember him saying he's not as into them as some other bands. I think he said they weren't as melodic as he would like them to be. Although I did find this getting more melodic as I listened to it, so maybe he needs to listen to it more as well. But I actually know when I picked them to do the bio, I was like, oh, they have that cool song on Rock Band. They're cool. They're this metal band. I just thought they were a metal. I didn't. And then as soon as it came on, I'm like, oh, this is prog. Okay, all right, I should have known that. So yeah, but I didn't really have any